Good evening. I call this June 9th, 2026 meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. We ask those in attendance tonight to please silence your cell phones. Thank you to those here in person with us tonight, those watching via live stream, and those who are watching a recording of this meeting. Our town mission statement, which helps guide our decisions tonight and into the future, is connecting our diverse community to an enhanced quality of life through innovative programs and services. Mayor Pro Tem Rabadi is unable to be with us tonight, and she has let us know that she will be unable to join virtually. Detective Lee is our Sergeant-at-Arms for this evening's meeting. We thank you for your attendance. This evening, I'll be leading our invocation. As we gather this evening, I'm filled with gratitude for our community and the spirit that continues to bring us together. This past weekend's Pride celebration was one of our most well-attended events yet, and it reminded us once again of who we are as a town. Welcoming, inclusive, and proud to stand with and for one another. We are strengthened by our differences, and we are united by our shared commitment to dignity, respect, and belonging. When we embrace each other fully, without hesitation or judgment, we create a hometown without equal, a place where every person knows they matter. May our work tonight reflect that same spirit of acceptance and unity, and may we continue building a community where all can thrive. Oh, and go Canes. All who are able, please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. If you notice anything on the agenda that could be a conflict or look like one, please share that now. I'd like to recognize Town Manager Zudema, please.
I apologize, Mayor, not for that topic. You have two closed sessions on your agenda, and I apologize, I meant to speak to you before. The first closed session on economic development, we'd like to pull that for tonight. We're still waiting on that information I shared with you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So I don't see any conflicts. Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt this evening's agenda without that economic development closed session included? You can just say, so moved.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. All those in favor of adopting the agenda with that one closed item removed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 6-0. We have two proclamations listed on our agenda for reference, and they will be read at upcoming events. They are a proclamation recognizing National Family Health and Fitness Day and a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Next on our agenda is Morrisville Speaks, public comment. And are there any people signed up for this evening?
We do have one person signed up. First is Stephanie Reed.
Okay. For those who have signed up to speak, please approach the microphone and begin by stating your name and residential address and direct all your comments to the council. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to ensure everyone has a fair opportunity to share their thoughts. A timer will start after you state your name and address, and a buzzer will sound when your time is up. We appreciate your cooperation in helping us manage time fairly for all participants. And the microphone is yours.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Reed, aka Sea Shanty Steph, and I live at 1672 Legendary Lane, Morrisville. Last time I stood here, I used the new car analogy to explain why building luxury apartments helps everyone. But lately, I've been thinking about the ultimate counter-argument. What about New York City? Manhattan is the densest place in the country, packed with luxury high-rises, yet it remains one of the most expensive places on earth. A friend told me a basic apartment in Brooklyn now costs a staggering $6,000 a month. If density works, why is New York failing so hard? The answer is that New York City still hasn't built enough to keep up with its population. Right now, New York City is running on historic rock-bottom vacancy rates. When 70% of your city rents and there are virtually no empty apartments, landlords can charge whatever they want. It's pure supply and demand. But New York leaders like Mayor Zoran Madani want to change this. He just laid out a massive blueprint to fix the housing crisis because he realized the city simply has to build, baby, build. His plan aims for 200,000 new homes in the next decade by cutting red tape, loosening zoning laws, legalizing basement apartments, and streamlining accessory dwelling units. Why did Madani, a staunch social democrat, embrace these market-oriented policies? Because he looked at the data from cities like Minneapolis, Seattle, and especially Austin, Texas. Austin did what New York failed to do. They loosened zoning restrictions and let people build. Between 2021 and 2024, Austin increased its housing stock by 10.5% and rents actually fell by 4%. When you give people options, the rental market cools down. This isn't just a New York or Texas story, it's our story right here in North Carolina. Governor Josh Stein recently signed an executive order to boost our housing supply because our state is projected to be short 750,000 homes by 2029. Our economy is booming, but our housing supply is flatlining. Governor Stein pointed out a heartbreaking reality here in Raleigh. Essential workers, the folks who literally build and protect our communities, can only afford 8% of available entry-level homes. As he said, they can build the homes, they just can't afford to live in them. Whether it's a high-rise in New York or a townhome in Morrisville, the math is identical. When we restrict housing, prices go up for everyone. We price out our neighbors, our workers, and our kids. Let's not wait until our rents look like New York City to learn that lesson. Let's loosen our zoning, expand our options, and build a Morrisville where the people who make our town run can actually afford to live. Thank you.
There is no one else signed up to speak.
Okay, was there anyone who didn't sign up who would like to speak and address this body for up to 3 minutes on any topic of your choosing? Okay, seeing none, I want to say thank you for that comment, and as a reminder, we encourage the submission of written comments as they offer a valuable way for community members to share their feedback. To submit written comments, please email publicinput@morrisvillenc.gov. And we have one action item this evening. We now invite Brandon Zutema, Town Manager, to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. No new information for you tonight as you prepare to take a vote on the recommended FY 2027 budget. I think just for those in the room and those watching online, just a quick summary. This work began really in January with our work with council. We've held a number of work sessions, worked through, I think what we all acknowledge has been a very challenging process given some revenue limitations and some known needs that the town has and the desire to continue to provide excellent services and really quality of life for our residents. So as we've worked through that process, we have come to the point of a budget that is recommended at approximately $60.4 million. In that budget, you all have demonstrated the ability to add some critical positions in public safety. You also continue to fund some really important programs such as the Smart Shuttle, and we're still paving our streets. We're still setting some money aside in reserves, not as much as we would, but again, some of those decisions that were made as a group. And again, on behalf of staff, we're very appreciative for the support you've shown and the guidance you've given in bringing us to this, I would say, sort of a compromise budget that does a lot, doesn't do everything, but again, I think given the totality of the circumstances, is a good budget for our community for FY 2027. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I would ask you to consider a vote on the recommended budget. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions for staff? I thought we could go forward with this. After any questions, we'll have a motion, a second, and if anyone wants to have any discussion, we can do that, but we'll have our main comments after the vote, which will be a roll call vote. Is that acceptable to everybody? Okay, so I'll recognize Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson with any kind of question for the staff.
I have no comments for staff. I am ready to make a motion.
Okay, so we should read all of that in its entirety? Is that correct, to make the motion?
I would say one vote on each motion, on each ordinance.
Okay, we will do it that way. So if you want to make a motion for the first one, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to adopt the Capital Project Ordinance 2026-181-A, adopting the fiscal year 2027 annual operating budget and capital investment program.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson and a second from Councilmember Garamella. Any discussion about this one? Well, actually, I'll ask Town Manager Zutema to explain the differences between these three so that we're clear on what we're voting.
Yes, sir. So the first ordinance is adopting your annual operating budget and the capital investment program. So that's the recommended $60.4 million budget, along with the capital investment program that is laid out as a part of that document. The second resolution is authorizing the collection of taxes by both Wake and Durham County. And then the third is authorizing the capital budget as outlined by the FY27 to FY31 capital investment program. So that is where you have a separate budget that is outlined to do your capital projects. That's a 5-year window. We sometimes talk about projects up to 10, but we fund up to 5 years. So that's identifying your funded projects in 5 years. Again, the second one is about the actual authority to collect the taxes in both counties. Keep in mind, we have that small pocket of Morrisville that does exist in Durham County. And then the first one is the annual operating budget itself, along with the CIP.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second, and I'd like to recognize Town Clerk Bertling to do a roll call vote on that first motion.
Councilmember Patel.
On the first one, nay.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Yes.
Councilmember Kessling.
Aye.
And Mayor Colley.
Nay.
And that passes 4-2.
Thank you very much. Would you like to make the second motion, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson?
I'm on a roll.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-181-B, authorizing both Wake County and Durham County to levy taxes and collect specified taxes and fees on behalf of the town.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. I apologize. I have a motion from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, second from Councilmember Garamella. And I recognize the town clerk for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Patel.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Aye.
Councilmember Kessling.
Aye.
And Mayor Colley.
Aye.
That passes 6-0 unanimously.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Okay, I'd like to make the final motion to adopt Resolution 2026-181-C, authorizing the fiscal year 2027 capital budget as outlined by the fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2031 capital investment program.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, a second from Councilmember Garamella. I'd like to recognize Town Clerk Bertling for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Patel.
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella.
Aye.
Councilmember Kessling.
Aye.
Mayor Colley.
Aye.
That passes unanimously 6-0.
Okay. At this time, we'll entertain comments. We have comments from Mayor Potem Ravati, which he asked me to read. So I'll go ahead and do mine first, and then hers, and then whoever wants to go after that would be welcome to do so. So tonight's vote reflects months of work by our staff and a sincere effort from every member of this council. We may not always agree on the path, but I know each of us cares deeply about this town and the people who call it home. For 12 years on this council and 8 years as your mayor, my guiding principle has been consistent. Provide excellent, effective, and efficient services to our residents, businesses, and visitors. I do not come into any budget season wanting to adjust the property tax rate. I understand the financial pressures our families are facing. I hear them, I see them, and I care deeply about ensuring that no one is left behind. But once a year, we must decide whether we are providing our staff the resources they need to deliver the services our community expects the other 364 days. Staff morale and retention matter. When we reduce cost of living adjustments or delay essential maintenance, we send a message to the very people who keep this town running that their work is optional. It is not. This budget, as constrained, underfunds our reserves. It delays pavement maintenance, reduces median care, cuts litter pickups, and scales back community building events. These are small investments with big impacts on appearance, on safety, on property values, and on staff pride in the work that they do. And I want to be very clear about this part because it reflects who I am and how I serve this community. I respect my colleagues. We all care about this town. But I've been elected mayor 3 times because I listen to staff, I look long-term, and I put needs before ideology. Freezing the tax rate every year is not a philosophy. It is a constraint that limits our ability to serve our residents. I believe there are ways to ensure that people are not left behind while still making the investments that keep Morrisville strong. We can support those who are struggling through targeted programs and partnerships, while also maintaining the services and infrastructure that define our quality of life. I worked hard with staff and my colleagues to craft a budget that keeps Morrisville strong today and positioned for continued success tomorrow. But I must also be honest, underfunding now puts at risk the progress we have made over the last decade and the stability we will need in the years ahead. Our residents deserve the whole story, not just what we can do within constraints, but what we should do to safeguard our future. And that is why I chose to vote against this version of the FY27 budget. Now I'd like to read something that was provided by Mayor Pro Tem Rabadi. She wishes that she could be here. Thank you, Mayor Cawley, for reading these remarks. While I am disappointed that travel prevents me from voting on this budget in person, I would like to share my perspective. This has been a challenging budget cycle. The town faces significant financial pressures, including inflation, increased service demands driven by population growth, and a decrease in revenue due to property tax appeals. Balancing these fiscal realities with our commitment to keeping Morrisville a safe, inclusive, and vibrant community has been a difficult task. I am pleased that we have maintained one of the lowest tax rate in Wake County at 35 cents per $100 valuation, and I thank the staff for their diligence in achieving this. To be transparent, I had advocated for a 0.5 cent increase. I believe small incremental adjustments are the most prudent way to ensure the town's long-term financial health while avoiding significant sticker shock for our residents and businesses. The compromises we reached this year were not ideal. We were unable to fully fund our transportation or land acquisition reserves, fill several requested public safety positions, expand our parks and rec programming, or replace necessary fleet vehicles. Despite these challenges, I am proud of what this budget accomplishes. We are adding new firefighter and police positions, beginning to staff the town center, adding a planning position to support economic development, and continuing our investment in the programs that make Morrisville great: our parks, infrastructure, community events, the Smart Shuttle, the Senior Center, and the MAFC. This budget provides a viable path forward for the coming year, and I would vote in favor of it were I present. However, it is important for the public to recognize that this type of emergency budgeting is not a sustainable long-term strategy. Like our residents, the town is subject to rising costs, and maintaining current tax levels indefinitely is not feasible. We must view this budget as a temporary measure to address immediate needs rather than a permanent standard. So I thank my fellow council members for allowing me to read that on her behalf. And if anyone else would like to make any comments, I'm happy to recognize you at this time. Councilmember Patel, please.
So before I share my thoughts on this budget, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank our staff. The work that goes into preparing a budget of this complexity is enormous, and our staff does it with professionalism and dedication. The comments I may have made about the budget in the past, in meetings or on social media, are not a criticism of staff. They are simply doing their jobs and doing them well, with the guidelines and priorities that we as a council have set. With that said, I want to begin by saying something very clearly. I support keeping the property tax rate flat, and I'm glad this budget keeps the rate flat at 35 cents. That matters. Our residents are already stretched thin, and I'm grateful that at least for this year, we have held the line on tax rate. But that's where I think the good news ends. The FY27 budget increases town's recurring base budget by 6.5% in a single year. That is over $3 million in additional ongoing spending that will continue year after year. At the same time, the budget raises approximately $1.4 million from fund balance, sets OPEB allocation to zero, and defers it to 2 to 3 years. We also slash fleet replacements and underfunds reserves to make numbers work. That combination concerns me. We haven't really addressed the spending side of the equation. That is not how families and businesses balance their budgets. A family does not cover the new car payment or vacation by raiding retirement savings and skipping home maintenance. They figure out what they can afford based on their annual income and live within that number. We should be doing the same. Last month, I presented data showing why many Morrisville residents cannot afford another tax increase. We heard residents come before this council and tell us they're struggling with rising costs. We heard from people whose friends and relatives have already been priced out of our community. Those voices also matter. I keep hearing that the residents want more amenities, more programs, and more services. While that is true, many of the people I speak with tell me something different. They want town government that is efficient, disciplined, and focused on its core responsibilities. They want us to spend their money as carefully as they spend their own. For that reason, I believe our focus should not simply be on avoiding tax increase this year. The real question is whether we are setting our residents up for a tax increase next year. Unfortunately, I believe this budget does exactly that. Anyone who disagrees can show me where exactly we are going to get the funds from the next year for everything we have added to the budget this year. Throughout this budget process, much of the debate centered on whether taxes should go up or remain flat. I supported keeping taxes flat, but in my view, both sides largely accepted the same premise, that the spending would continue to increase. And that is the habit we need to break. Revenue growth in this town has slowed. The days of spending everything that comes in and then borrowing against reserves to cover the rest need to end. If we do not change the course, we will be back here next year asking residents to pay more, and they will have every right to ask why we did not see it coming. This vote is not against any particular program. It is not against town staff, and it is certainly not a vote against for higher taxes. It is a vote for fiscal discipline. I want Morrisville to remain affordable for the families, seniors, and working residents who built this community and continue to make it such a great place to live. If those people can no longer afford to live here, no amount of new amenities will replace what we have lost. Because I believe this budget increases recurring spending without adequately changing our long-term spending trajectory, and because I believe it significantly increases the likelihood of future tax increase, I cannot support it, and that is the reason why I have voted no. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make any comments at this time? I'd like to recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
I was deeply offended by your social media posts. We signed an agreement to not personally attack or defame any of our council members. You made a statement that the other council members were not on board with your position. I take personal attack by that because I feel like I do support your positions. And I looked for where in the meetings I supported your positions. And to say that I didn't, I am deeply hurt. The election is over. We need every single person on this dais to work together, bring ideas forward, discuss, participate, not agree, come together, find a better solution than one person can bring forward. We are better together than dividing us, saying that I'm the right person and you're not. I believe you have so much good vision for this town, but please do not make me less because you didn't get exactly something that you wanted, because I didn't get a lot of things that I wanted out of this budget. The budget is the most important product on an annual basis for the town council. And so we need everybody, staff, public, and town council, to work together with whatever resources we have. And we're not going to agree, and we're not necessarily going to get exactly the thing we want. There's something called budget amendments. So if there's new information or changing information, we can say, hey, we did our best, we can course correct, there is a budget amendment. The town used to do budget amendments a lot in the past. When I first started in 2013, we were doing budget amendments for, transportation, or we were doing budget amendments for public safety, radios, and so forth like that. But we created reserves in order to smooth the budget process. And that is why we have reserves, so that the town manager does not have to go and ask for money every time we have a new project that is specific to our public safety or transportation needs. Today, we were not able to fully fund those reserves. So we may have to make a budget amendment, but it is still available to us. We still have that capability. And I know, being new to the council, there's a lot of layers of complexity about the why and the what. But it's also important that we all participate and build trust. April 9th was the first time that the council had an opportunity to work with staff and the town manager and see the proposed budget and see the proposed additional new monies and to see the one-time expenses. At that meeting, I said, I'm curious about this base budget capacity and proposed new expenses. How many of those commit us to a recurring cost, so I know in the body of the presentation, because it was all over the place. And I asked specifically for them to create a visual that showed the capacity but, that would be absorbed in the future fiscal year's budget because of these new expenses. And we talked about that. Unfortunately, all of us were not present. Councilmember Patel was not able to be at that meeting. If he had been at the meeting, I'm sure he would have also provided some feedback about this initial budget. But I spoke up, and I am concerned about the recurring costs of the future. At the April 30th work session, we also reviewed recurring expenses and new items in great detail. Interestingly enough, for the first time that I ever heard, Councilmember Patel said that the budget survey inherently is flawed, that we ask people what they want for the town, but we don't give them a quantitative measure to prioritize what is good and what is not. How much does our utopian budget provide? If you have this at $1 million and it costs you a tax increase, or if you have this at 500,000, what is still the level of service that you want? If we build surveys which are more quantifiable, that are clear about impact, we might be getting closer to a more useful survey. So I agree with that, and I've never heard that before. I also heard that Neighbor Up services are emergency services. They are not for ongoing, struggling, economically impacted individuals. They are for if you lose your job, and can't pay the electricity, if you need job retraining, these are things that are emergent and not continuous. So we can't rely on neighbor service to help all the families in the town that are struggling. On May 14th, we heard that there was some really good analysis by Councilmember Patel, which I did appreciate, but unfortunately, it was a problem statement that needed additional follow-up. And we did not agree as a council at that time what that follow-up should be. We did hear that a line-by-line analysis would be needed to better understand the cost drivers behind the budget. Now, there are not just drivers in the operating budget. I would caution everyone to understand there are cost drivers in our capital improvement plan budget. As we activate capital improvements, we kick off expenses. As we conclude those capital improvements, we sunset the expenses, so it's kind of a rolling thing. So there's two things at play, operating and capital projects. On May 28th, we had a public hearing. We heard from individuals, from the public, and we were able to come to a point in the meeting where we said, do we need any further discussion and hold our Thursday session, or should we close the public hearing? We heard from every council member except for Councilmember Patel did not weigh in on that, and the majority decided that we would not do the Thursday meeting. We would close the public hearing, and that was that. I really think, in hindsight, if it was important to look at some of these detailed recurring expenses that were new, we could have used that Thursday to begin the discussion. A budget is not one time during the year and then we're done. It is actually a continuum of discussions throughout the year. We plan on looking at the capital improvements plan in detail in the fall of 2026 so that we will have a reprioritization and perhaps realignment within that time. Because of the request by Councilmember Patel for an in-depth look at the operating budget, I do believe I heard on May 28th that the consensus of the council is that we would like that to be performed in the near future. And I think that is like the August, September timeframe. And I really have hope for that in the sense that we cannot continue to increase our service levels without revisiting priorities and without looking at the fact that we are a slower growing town. So I supported this budget because of the flat taxes and the impact to our community, both residential and commercial. But I also care deeply, and I believe that we are not done working. The town needs the public to help us understand what is important, and the staff can help us deliver an even better future for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make comments on the budget? Councilmember Johnson, please.
So I would love to say ditto and then move on, but I'm gonna add a little bit too. So first, I want to thank our staff. Thank you for listening intently to the public and to the majority of council. I appreciate that. You do that every year, but I thank you, especially this year, because I also agree this has been a challenging year. And we have acknowledged during all of our budget discussions that not only is this year challenging, potentially next year will be challenging. And then I think we forget that we talk about the year after that having some capacity become available to the town. So if we're going to start talking about what happens next year, let's talk about not only next year, but the year after. There is hope on the horizon. It is not a guarantee, first of all, I do not believe, not a guarantee that there will be a tax increase next year. And I think there are opportunities ahead for us as we work toward future budgets and doing the best we can for our community. First of all, I'm pleased, and I am also proud, as Mayor Pro Tem said, I am also proud of this budget, and I am pleased that we do not have a tax increase this year. I am committed to doing whatever I can to keep our tax rate as reasonable as possible for as long as possible, and that is my commitment. I stated that during our budget process. I'm stating it again tonight, and I will continue to say that. This budget fully funds public safety, both police and fire, which I am very happy about. We are funding essential services for this community, which I am also happy about. We are supporting our employees, which also makes me greatly happy. There are many unknowns to come. There are always unknowns as we go through the years of governing on council. The General Assembly has made that a little difficult lately because they are anticipating or they're talking about a lot of actions that might come forward. I have stated before, I believe that our staff and this council can handle whatever those unknowns are moving forward. I have personally been on council long enough to have, unfortunately, had a lot of unknowns pop up, sometimes in the middle of a budget year, where we've had to react and we've had to recoup, and we have done it, and we have moved forward successfully to do what's right for this community. This budget is a compromise. It does not include everything I want either. We heard that from Mayor Pro Tem's comments, from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. It is a compromise. Everything we do as a council, not just with a budget, everything we do is a compromise. We don't all agree. We shouldn't all agree. That would make me very frightened if we were all lockstep. There is a reason we all disagree. And when we disagree, that does not in any way mean that we have ignored anyone. So I too want to reference the comments that Councilmember Patel made on social media. Publicly, he said the rest of the council ignored his spending reductions and that we ignored him. That is simply not true. I acknowledge that he feels that way, but that is not what has happened with the other members, with me or the other members of this council. I can guarantee you that. I think the members of this council, all of us, have gone above and beyond, not only to welcome, but encourage our newest elected officials to participate in all that we do. We are not, once again, not going to all agree. That does not in any way mean we have ignored anyone's position or their opinion. We just have differing opinions. I will tell you, over the years, council has not always agreed with the things that I have wanted. Again, because we have different opinions on what is the right solution. I have never felt ignored by any of the 25 some odd elected officials, and especially the folks I am serving with today. That does not mean I was ignored. Instead, it meant that I needed to turn back onto myself and to look at how I was articulating my position, and that I needed to do a better job to convince my colleagues if that is truly what I believed in and felt. So again, I acknowledge feelings of others, but that does not mean that this council, every single one of the people on this council, has not been welcoming and open to ideas and suggestions. 'Cause, 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 'c I do want to, I'm just looking at my notes. Councilmember Scrivens Johnson talked about revisiting the survey. I absolutely think that is an important thing to do as we move forward, revisiting the wording on our surveys when it comes to budgeting. I also think a budget deep dive is important, and I heard a majority on this council support that moving forward. When that suggestion was brought up in the budget process, it was clearly brought up too late in the process. And so a budget deep dive is important, but it takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes a lot of work on the behalf of our staff. So I think that is important moving forward. I do think that also means we need to figure out a way to involve the public. At this point in the evolution of this town, I think it is really important to have a hard conversation amongst ourselves and with the public as to what services we want to keep here in the town of Morrisville, what services we want to expand, and what services should be discontinued here in the town of Morrisville. And I think the only way we get to that, and I honestly don't know the actual venue or the mechanism we use, I think we need to come up with a different method than just surveying folks. But however we move forward with budgeting, we need to keep the public in mind and have them and offer them an opportunity to be far more engaged than we have in the past. Because to the other comments that were made, our growth is changing here in the town of Morrisville. That is not new to our staff. That is not new to any of us that were on council last year or the year before that, because that is a topic of conversation we have had. We have had this conversation, and we know when we get to budget that is a important discussion item that I think we discussed this year, and we will definitely discuss more in the months ahead. So let me just, two really important things I want to repeat. I am proud of this budget. It is important to have a budget that reflects our community and our values, and I believe this budget does that. And again, I am committed to doing my best to keep our tax rate as reasonable as possible for as long as possible.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
Man, that's hard to go after two. But I'll start by saying the same thank you, staff, and especially Jeannie, Brian, and Brandon. It takes a whole village for you all to come together. Hearing 7 people say 7 things, but gets funneled to one and have to go back. And this budget has not been easy. And rarely do we see everyone will get everything. That is, I'm saying, not just from our council, but from the staff too, and the public too, because everyone has a lot of priorities. But what we reflect here is each one's priorities, our values, our vision for the future of the community. Throughout this process, we had long conversations, healthy debates, differing perspectives, and the best way to move Morrisville forward. And that's exactly how we should be. The best part is the budget has a property tax flat at 35 cents. At the time when many families continue to face rising costs of housing, groceries, insurance, healthcare, and everyday necessities, maintaining the current rate demonstrates our commitment to be responsible stewards of taxpayers' dollars while continue to provide services to our residents and rely on every day. But what does that really mean? Keeping taxes flat does not mean standstill. The budget continues to invest on public safety, transportation, infrastructure, parks, senior services, technology. It supports the dedicated staff who work very hard, and we incorporate. Every year we have our appraisal, we have our salary hikes, we have our bonuses, and all kinds of things. And we should treat our staff the same way. They're no different. They work hard day in, day out. Unfortunately, they don't get bonuses. That's working in government, but they have other perks. So I think it is important to acknowledge that the amount of time that they dedicate doing that. But also, we all agree, and I have been pretty vocal, that from last 3-4 years, we have been lucky that we are going at the pace of 3 to 4%, and that is not forever. And that is always the fear that I have is we have that luxury. Why are we able to keep our tax rate at 35? Because we have the growth of 4 to 5%, and that is helping to get all the other revenues and incur the recurring costs. And that is good, but also I honestly feel the honeymoon days are over. In the years to come, it will become harder and harder, and which is fine, you know. So those are the conversations where we have to look into what is right, what is not. But we are, you know, to understand the recurring expenses is not created equally every time, you know. Sometimes the budget is directly tied to maintenance services, support public safety, planning the growth of our residents. I fully support police officers is a recurring expense. Firefighters are a recurring expense. Planning and development staff is a recurring expense. Parks, maintenance, transportation operations, senior services, community programs are recurring expenses. These are not optional luxuries. These are the core functions of growing a successful community. Over the past, we have had tremendous growth. Our population has increased. Our business community has expanded. And thanks to the divide that we have of 55% commercial and 45 or closer to those numbers, we are able to offset a lot of our resident taxes because we are getting from the commercial side. The tax evaluation is next year. Do we know what's going to happen? Answer is not. You know, we will see when it comes to, but we are really, really lucky because no one can take our location away. And for our growth is location, location, location. And we are seeing, thanks, you know, adding Tiffany was one of the best moves that we had in a retreat. When there was debate of to have or not to have, I said, investing one person will get you automatically the money or 10 times more. And that's what we have seen that. You know, the entire Novartis and the new companies which are coming left in, left out is only helping us. But we have to see how the growth can be responsible. But tonight, I also want to bring one point that we don't have a deficit in the budget. I know I should use the word deficit. By North Carolina State General Statute, we have to balance the budget. Deficit means that we are borrowing money from, or we have a hole in the budget. We don't have a hole in the budget. It's whatever we put as a recurring is the base budget for next year. And, you know, we have many tools. We were lucky the sales tax went, well, we got a better sales tax, what we projected. So there are ups and downs. We go the user fee adjustments, while other towns are struggling. I think we are one of the lowest, and I say we are the lowest because there are different ways to skin the cat, especially take Holly Springs. They are like half a cent more than us, or might be more or less, I can't remember, but they have the user fees. They have like they have the trash collections, and Cary has the trash collections, and all kinds of different fees which are slapped on top of your, you know, taxes. We don't do that. We are just flat taxes, and we are very cognizant to ensure we give the best service at the lowest rate possible. So we have what we have, but I think the point well taken from Councilmember Patel is the future is important. The future is how we ensure we take care of our recurring expense. But today, I am happy that we are physically able to balance our budget with tomorrow's obligation. This budget does that. It protects our taxpayers, it maintains essential services, it invests in our future, and it's positioned to continue to thrive for years to come. And I am really proud to support the 2027 budget. Thank you.
Councilmember Kessling, please.
So I've heard about the challenges that other municipalities have had with day-to-day operations, fiscal management, lack of transparency. Every time I hear those challenges, I look to what we're doing here in Morrisville, and I think that we are really lucky because we have an excellent staff that does excellent work to keep any issues that we may have minor and manageable. And I want to commend our town manager, Brandon Zudema, for his effective administration in helping Morrisville achieve new heights. And I trust our staff and their recommended budget this year. I also wanted to say that the challenge that we face here is broader than municipal spending. What looks like local government strain is increasingly shaped by a structural shift in our economy, a shift directed by policy at the state and federal level that consistently places the burden of funding our society onto working residents while protecting the largest corporate entities. I won't get into all of those issues, but I implore us to collectively fight for an economy that works for everyone and not just the wealthy few. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. We all had a chance. I'll recognize Councilmember Patel. If you'd like to share anything, sir.
So first of all, I do want to say that the concerns and disappointment that Councilmember, actually all of you may have heard about that post, is valid. It was poor choice of words. I recognized when somebody pointed out that that image was still there. I had intended to replace that, and I had replaced it, but in the process, it had created a new post instead of replacement. But when another council member pointed that out on Sunday evening, I apologized to her, and I will apologize to everyone here for poor choice of word on that image. I did take that image out immediately once I reached home and replaced it with something that is this. Unfortunately, those proposals did not receive enough support to be included in final budget. The word or whatever the sentence was, I don't no longer have image in front of me, but the one that said it was ignored was poor choice of words, and I apologize to everyone for that. As for me not being present on during April 9th meeting, it was due to something that I had planned before this meeting was scheduled, and I was out of country, but I did watch the entire meeting live when I was there, and then again when I returned. And one correction I do want to make on what Councilmember Garimullah said was that I never used word deficit in any of my comments. So maybe I spoke something that came off differently, but everybody can watch all the recordings. I've never used word deficit. And everything else was already said, but I would say that about my social media post was what I was trying to do was justify why I'm voting no for that budget and what I felt was accurate. But yes, aside from that particular sentence, everything else I was trying to convey was the reason why I'm voting no for this budget. And I wanted to make sure that it doesn't come off as I'm voting no for keeping taxes flat. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, since our retreat, we've had really good discussions and we've come to a budget which we have approved. And now it's time to once again come together and execute that budget. And I'm looking forward to doing that with each and every one of you. And I think we're all committed to doing that for our residents. So thank you all. Thank you again to staff for doing a really great job for bringing us all together on this budget, which now we will execute. And looking forward to all the different processes for the next year as well, as we learn more about each other and how to work together even better. All good to move on, or did you want to? Yep, okay. So we have a recommended budget. Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations to the town. At this time, we're at item 9, future meetings, events, and resident involvement opportunities. I think I'm hungry. I almost said restaurant. So for a full listing of events, please see the town calendar at www.morrisvillenc.gov. Now we will move on to council comments because you haven't heard from us enough just now. So we're going to have Councilmember Garamella will share first, and will be followed by Councilmember Johnson, please.
It's hard when I'm first. But nevertheless, congratulations to the staff. At least you guys can take a sense of relief and get back after the. Brandon will only get a vacation only if the Kings win today, okay. And they have to. The match is already started at 8 o'clock. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, I think I am pretty happy with what, I would say, I'm the biggest proponent of transportation dollars, the 1 cent. And it was a compromise that we had to do it. And thanks to Jeannie, if not giving me the overview, for the next couple of years, we have sufficient money, I would have never even accepted that. And those are the kind of feedback that I received and that made me take those hard decisions. But trust me, budget is budget. It is done. Let's get our action. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, followed by Councilmember Patel, please.
So I am so happy the fire chief is still here in the audience because we had I've lived in my neighborhood for 29 plus years, and the fire department, the best of my knowledge, has never actually come down and fought a fire or had to do anything in my little neighborhood. But we had an event yesterday morning, and so I need to thank a whole lot of people. But number one, I am going to tell everybody I see from here on out, do not put combustibles in the garbage. If you have a lithium battery, do not put it in the garbage. Unfortunately, there was something in the GFL truck that came through my neighborhood yesterday morning, and he was doing the bulk item pickup that we have this week. And unfortunately, something was smoldering in the truck. And I will tell you, the GFL driver was amazing. I'm sure he was shook, and I talked to him for a little bit, but he could see there was something smoldering in the truck, and he called his supervisor, and the supervisor told him to dump the contents in the cul-de-sac and move the truck away so that it would protect not only the driver, but the truck. And oh, by the way, the truck was under a bunch of trees right at my neighbor's house. And so the thought of what could have happened with that truck going up and exploding, and the trees and the dryness of the whole area, I have an active imagination. But anyhow, the driver dumped the contents, and the next time I looked out the window, there was a roaring fire in the cul-de-sac. So kudos to GFL, kudos to our fire department. I got to witness them in action like I don't think I've ever witnessed before. I've seen them training. And so on behalf of my neighbors as well, Tom, please extend all our thanks to the fire department. And if anybody's in touch with GFL, please extend their thanks. Everyone thought it all worked as beautifully as it could under the circumstances. And again, just really incredibly grateful that no one was hurt, no property was damaged, and we had a couple of great photos to share with you all and some videos. But please, please, please do not put combustibles in the garbage. Thank you.
I wouldn't want to follow that. Councilmember Patel, please, followed by Councilmember Kessler.
No, I just want to once again thank staff. Budget season is not easy, and it is months of late nights, difficult trade-offs, and pressure from every direction. You fielded our questions with patience, and you revised projections, ran new scenarios, and came back on the table again and again. And you did all that while still running the day-to-day operations of this town without missing a beat. I may not always agree with every line in the budget. That is the nature of this work, and I think the honest disagreement handled with respect makes us better. But I have never once doubted professionalism and dedication of the people who put this budget together. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Kessler, followed by myself.
I'm very appreciative that we are a community here that supports our LGBTQIA+ neighbors, and I appreciate our staff who helped make for a successful event with our Pride event last Friday. I also wanted to thank staff for starting the compost pilot here at Town Hall. It was very satisfying to throw that in there. And then also we have Morrisville Green Day. I don't know when the next one is, but if you have electronics that you need to dispose of, I would say collect those, save them, and dispose of them safely at our Green Day event, whenever the next one may be. That's my comments.
I have some comments followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. So our FY27 budget is done. That was my 13th. And now, despite our differences in budget philosophies, it's time to roll up our sleeves and move forward together. Our residents expect us to work as one team, and that means listening to one another, supporting our staff, and staying focused on the long-term needs of this community. This weekend's Pride celebration reminded us of something essential. Our differences make us stronger, and our acceptance of one another is what makes Morrisville a hometown without equal. That spirit of belonging is exactly what we need to carry into the year ahead. If we bring that same kindness, resilience, and purpose to our work, even when we don't see every issue in the same way, we will continue building a community that leads by example, a community that welcomes, supports, and lifts up every neighbor. Thank you all, our staff, this council, and our residents for your dedication and for the work we will do together in the months ahead. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Over the weekend, there was a significant milestone achieved by the Georgina's restaurant in Morrisville. And anytime a restaurant is able to survive 5 years, that is a significant milestone for that establishment. And to attend the 20-year celebration of Georgina's, and I know some of the council was able to attend this weekend, is a significant milestone. And Morrisville has rapidly been expanding over the last 20 years, and a lot of changes have occurred in our business community, but it was really nice to see that milestone, and I hope that we have other establishments able to achieve that as well in the future. So congratulations, Georgina's.
And it was neat because Ro introduced me to her daughter, Georgina, the namesake of the restaurant. So that was kind of cool that she was able to be there too. Town Manager Zudema, do you have any comments for us, sir?
Just a friendly reminder, the advisory committee ballots, you have received those. They are due next Tuesday at midnight. So if you would give that some thought over the course of the week, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. It is 7:07. We have one work session this evening. We'll invite Town Manager Brandon Zudema and Morrisville Chamber of Commerce President Christy Moser to the table. I don't think we need a break. We can just head right on down there and keep everything going. So why don't we do that? Please bring your blue cards and anything else you need down there. Thank you.
Scoring on ourselves. A scoring on ourselves.
It's anyone's day at that time.
So at this time, as I mentioned, we have one work session this evening. We're going to invite Town Manager Brandon Zudema and Morrisville Chamber of Commerce President Christy Moser to the table to discuss Chamber of Commerce Services Agreement. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to tag team this with you. I'm going to talk through the services agreement, and then Christy has a document that's going to highlight some of the data analysis and what will be trend over time for you in a form as well. So as you recall, we met back in April. We presented you with a draft services agreement. After some conversation at that meeting, the general consensus was that we look at a 2-year rather than a 3-year agreement. So this document has been amended to cover FY27 and FY28. Additionally, did some more work on this with Christy and also with Tiffany from Economic Development to make sure it was accurately reflecting all the work that was being done. So I'm not going to read respectfully all of this to you. I'm just going to hit some quick highlights of what has been updated, and really the meat of the agreement itself has not changed. We've added some expectations and some requirements for reporting, but the meat of this has not changed. Again, other than it's a 2-year versus a 3-year agreement, it still includes a $50,000 support of the chamber for the work that they're doing in collaboration with our team. So literally nothing there until you get down to, sorry, lots of legalese there, and none of that's changed. So when you get into the chamber responsibilities to the town, we've done some minor clarification, just updated the definition of what those 4 industry-focused forums are to put a little more detail there. Modified slightly the small business training and the focus on hub, same intent, just different language. And then the next one talks about the Launch Morrisville program. It includes that either Tiffany or Amelia will serve on any required planning committee for that. The next one highlights that we'll collaborate to maintain and promote a business resource guide. Again, just a little more clarification around what that is. And then clarification on the chamber focusing on delivering programming that highlights the expertise and experience of its members. And then what the town's ED department will do in terms of business education, technical assistance, and resource navigation. Added a section, the town and chamber will maintain regular communication and share upcoming programming and initiatives. We're doing that, but it's always good to write down what we're doing so that if it's somebody else in the future, they know what they should be doing. Event and recognition has not changed, same totals there. In the administrative and financial reporting section, this really stems from your conversation last time in SEPA. You had some points and some questions in regards to the data aspect of the performance of the chamber. So we have added in some of the expectations that the update will minimally include, certainly could include other information, but data information related to membership. All of these are categories that you asked there be additional information about. Progress towards any membership goals, events including number of attendees and any outcomes from those events. And again, I think the chamber is continuing to expand surveying people that attend those meetings, and so they'll have more data over time, and then can also start to present trend data probably more in the FY28 than in FY27. This is really a year to dig in a little bit to help them do some of that tracking. And then again, data related to support of town events or initiatives. What's the benefit that you're seeing or we're seeing from the partnership? Data related to Morrisville community impact. That's where those surveys come in. And then trend data for all the above over the course of the agreement. So I think we hit at least the highlights, if not everything that you all had raised as something you'd like to see more about. And that is the highlights of what has changed in that agreement. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Okay.
30 minutes.
Well, we're not quite done, but we're rolling.
I have questions for the second half, so.
Yes. So that really concludes the services agreement. So we will get a clean version to you, and then that will be on the June 23rd agenda on consent for approval, and then that will kick off July 1st as a 2-year agreement. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Christy.
Thank
So she can talk you through this update. And what I will say, if I can on her behalf, is that, again, some of this is to be determined or to come because we've asked for some things they haven't necessarily tracked before. So just want to preface it that way and I'll get out of your way.
Thank you, Brandon. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So yes, for our June update, I have tried to gather data from the last meeting that you all had requested. We have moved towards our membership goal and increased that. I spoke about getting to about 250 this year. I think we've increased that by over 20 something since the last report that I had for you all. But I was able to dive in a little bit further into what you all had asked about. So this goes over our membership by level. The small business aspect is clearly the biggest focus that our chamber currently has as far as membership goes. I'm just going to scroll through this and y'all ask me any questions as you'd like to. I gave you an initial join year. This one does go back to 1990, which is just nice day to see the membership trends that we have from that period of time. You all asked about companies by headquarter location. I did use AI to help me formulate this information from the data that I exported from our membership directory to see if it could break it down by that without me going into 230 folks. So you can definitely see, obviously, that the triangle has the majority of those members. A couple are outside of there. Keep on going. Our companies by membership category. This is actually something we are working on. When we migrated our software back in November, a lot of the membership categories evidently did not convey completely. So we are missing a number of membership categories currently. So I am following up with our members to make sure that their information is correct. And you all had asked about any of the minority women-owned businesses as well, and that is a directory category that they can select. If we don't have that as a selection, then we don't have that data to provide currently, but I would love for more of our members to select that so that we do know who is in those categories. Our companies by city, this is a closer breakdown of where those folks are located. So Morrisville obviously being the highest percentage of those, with Raleigh, Cary, and Durham following behind, and a few others in different of our surrounding communities. These are new members that we've had since the last report, so this was just something I had done, but we only had 8 that signed up with a membership category, so I am following up with all of those new members to try to get their categories listed appropriately within our system. And our new members by membership level are also listed right here, so you have an idea of where they fall in those categories. Sole proprietor and small 2 to 5 employees, again, being the dominant employee numbers there. And then finally, just our new members by city, mostly in Morrisville, and then those surrounding areas. Attendees by event was the last one that I have. Our annual meeting is one of our largest for the year, that happened in April. The state of Morrisville with the town was in February. Our golf classic is coming up. That one's up to almost 100 registrations at this point in time. So this is just a snapshot of those events for you all. Keep on going. We are implementing a QR code to gather some feedback, as Brandon had mentioned, to help us better define the impact in our community, but also just gain more feedback from our membership at certain events, and Coffee Connections being one of those. Town partnerships in 2025, I highlighted really quick here. I spoke with Amelia to try to gauge those events that they took registration for, to be able to give you a snapshot of those, and the same for in 2026. So a few that have already happened, and then a number of things to come. So that's a quick overview, but I'd love to take any questions. Yes, Ms. Vicki. Councilmember Johnson, sorry.
Thank you for this report. I was really intrigued that you were able to visualize, so many of the different categories, and I was actually surprised that we have such a significant population of small businesses, because historically, the small business community has felt like they couldn't join the chamber, I think due to the fee structure that was in place, and now it seems like you've adjusted, and we now have a lot more engagement on the sole proprietor, and it allows for a lot more networking and more local engagement for definitely, from your statistics. However, now I'm going to ask the flip side. What about the large employers that are in Morrisville? Is there a national trend for, companies not to be part of the local chambers? Because I think there might be a shift, and that's just me observing, but since it's in your area, I was just wondering if you could share some insights as to what the trends might be.
It's a great question. I would say that I believe it was the TDJ, or maybe it was the National Journal had just highlighted Chambers of Commerce specifically on membership trends and struggles there. I do think for us personally, sometimes the larger companies just take more time. So it's just multiple touch points, and really trying to show them where they can benefit, and getting to that network within their company to be able to draw them out to events so that they do see the value. So I think it's most of the time, I think it's just getting in the door and getting to the right person. And so I don't know that there's necessarily a trend with the bigger companies. I think it's just sometimes a little bit harder to get to get to the right person.
And it might be cyclical as well.
It might be cyclical as well, for sure.
And then also, is there a public directory of the chamber members, or would some not want to be publicly, available on a list kind of thing? Or-
So there, in our website, there is a directory of all of our businesses. We do not give out a full directory with email contacts. As you can imagine, then they would get bombarded by every company. And so that we do keep private, but they could select to not be listed in the directory at all
Okay.
as well if they wanted to.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If there's not other questions, again, thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
So I hope you feel that you've been heard from that conversation in April. Again, this will just continue to grow as that data grows and as I think the chamber staff continues to expand how they collect information and data. And again, we're going to continue to collaborate with them on that as well, certainly through ED, certainly through our working relationship. And if there are any other questions, we'll bring both of these back on consent on June 23rd, and we'll be ready with a new agreement and some more consistent quarterly reporting for you over the course of the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Our small and mighty chamber.
Yes.
There's lots of ribbon cuttings coming up. Just
Yes.
had one today. It was quite nice.
There are.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like us to enter into closed session, and then we'll take a break. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. So we have one closed session this evening to discuss a confidential matter. Thank you to everyone for watching this evening, as this will be the end. We plan that this is the end of our public business. I'd ask for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to discuss a development matter. Nope.
So you want,
NCGS 143-318-11A9 to receive public safety training. So you could just say so moved.
so I'll make that motion.
Okay? A motion from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Councilmember Scarlett Johnson. All those in favor of entering closed session at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries unanimously 6-0. It is 7:24. We are now in closed session.
Five.